Let's throw our hands in the air as we soar through the sky.
Yatta!
We'll catch the sun with your hand in mine, and if we work as a team, everything will be fine.
Yeah!
Oh, it's Cure of the What Now?
Let's henshin and start the show!
Hello, fellow sneaky stowaways, and welcome to episode 31 of Cure of the What Now? The only show where we invite ourselves along on trips just because. I'm your host, Kat, and I tossed my friend's pillow out of her bag carelessly as I was folding myself inside of it.
My name is Joel, I'm the co-host, and I was just tricked off the train, and then they took off without me before I could enact my evil scheme.
Yes, I'm sure that happened to you often when you were a child.
Whoa!
I'm saying your mother abandoned you at train stations.
Whoa! Anyways, welcome to episode 31.
Yes, of...
Cure of the What Now?
No, you made me sing it. I was
Cure of the What Now?
Thank you.
I didn't make you do anything. I asked politely before we recorded so it wouldn't sound like you were forced to do it.
And I did it for you because I love you. Do we have any announcements this week?
Not particularly. As a reminder, CotWNtober is now available. It's live on
now
Twitter.
In session.
Yes, so we are recording this on Monday, the 4th, and I haven't done today's drawing, but so far I've drawn Mipple, and Meppel, and Polun, and Ichika, and who did I do on the first? Hinata, and Uni, and Yukari. So I'm on a roll.
Yeah, I am drawing the adventures of an adorable creature named Candy Corn.
Yes, he/them pronouns or he/they pronouns.
Yes, and I love Candy Corn.
Okay, yeah,
both
absolutely.
the creature and the snack. Here's the thing about candy corn. It's disgusting, but in an ideal way. It
Okay.
is the peak of not good candy.
Interesting. Do you think with Minori, this is not the discussion question, but do you think that with Minori eating foods that other people are like, oh, that's kind of weird, do you think that she's into the candy that people don't like?
Yes, Minori would be into banana-flavored candy. And everybody would be like, gross, Minori. And she would tell you the very interesting fact about how banana candy tastes like bananas used to taste before we killed all those bananas, and now we have a different strain of bananas.
Are you telling me that we performed a banana genocide? I am personally against that.
Not on purpose.
Okay.
They had smallpox, banana pox, but we didn't give them the banana pox blankets on purpose, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to Cure of the What Now, the only show where we talk about the real history of
banana genocide,
of vegetables and crops and agriculture.
I mean, as long as we're on the subject, did you know a banana republic was a real thing? I thought it was just a store name, but it refers to, like, the specific political structure that rose up around these banana farms.
Wait, was there actually a time in history when kangaroos presided over court as well, or is that just an expression?
I think that's just an expression.
Okay. Do you have a discussion question this week?
Yes, I do have a discussion question for you, my sweet, sweet husband. If the Tropical Girls could pick a destination and make everyone else go on a trip with them there, where would each of them choose to go?
Okay. So the first obvious answer is Laura would want to take them to Grand Ocean. I don't know if it's a magical train that can take them to the bottom of the ocean, but I assume we're going to get an episode where she shows them that place. I don't know if that'll be the season finale or if it'll just be like an episode.
Did she leave everything she owned in that place?
No, she left it all in the aquapot. Karurun!
I mean, she left Karurun on a train, so we'll get there.
Karurun is their own entity, so they can choose wherever they want to be, and it's their fault for not getting back in the aquapot. Do you have any ideas?
Yes, I think that Manatsu would want to travel to Tokyo Disney.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
She seems like a theme park girl. I think that she would have a great time doing, like, a group trip to a big theme park like that.
My first thought was some kind of an arcade building where they could do, like, Dance Dance Revolution and Miss Pac-Man and that sort of thing, but that might be... I think she would enjoy it, but it's too indoors for her. She's definitely an outdoor, so a theme park would work because there's a lot of rides and it's not, like, an enclosed building. Or the other idea I have is, like, some really beautiful beach or, really cool tropics like the jungle or something like that. She's very outdoorsy in where she wants to go, I think.
Imagine her being like, we're going to this great VRBO on the beach. I found it. It's beautiful. But then they get lost in the jungle. And they have to like fight snakes and stuff.
They eventually emerge and it's like the last day of the trip and they're like, well, we didn't get to stay in the, the room that you booked or whatever, but we still had fun anyways. And Karun has just been handling everything. Like Karun's just by the campfire. Karun, like sizzling up some bacon.
Oh, I love that. And then Sango for Fashion Week, which I think takes place in Paris.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I guess you did say anywhere. My brain was kind of thinking of Japan-specific locations, because I assume that you would also want to go to, is it Akihabara, the place where they do a lot of fashion in Japan?
No, that's Harajuku.
Okay.
Or it was Harajuku. It might have changed since
everything happened?
Yeah.
Okay, but I think she would take people to fashion places. Yeah, so like the Fashion Week and that sort of thing.
Imagine Sango watching the Victoria's Secret fashion show and just being like star-eyed over how pretty they are and the outfits and everything.
Oh my goodness. Manatsu is just kind of like, whoa, look at all of that. Because something that you've told me before is that apparently at these fashion shows, they pick something and they exaggerate it, so they're not actually wearing something that they expect will be in stores, but, maybe people will see giant bow and they'll go, oh, bows are in. And so I see Manatsu being like, whoa, that lady's dressed like a peacock, but Sango is taking, like, detailed notes, and she's, like, underlining, and she has, like, a formula for figuring out what's going to be in fashion this upcoming.
Oh, I love that. That does sound like Sango. What about Minori? She's a hard one to pin down.
Wait. What if she took everyone to New Zealand and they did the Hobbit tour?
I love that. Consider also, is there somewhere a museum of fruits?
I imagine that there might be, but I don't know of one off the top of my head.
A natural history of fruits, a biography by Minori.
Parentheses, we're going to talk about the banana genocide. The banana-cide that happened.
You can't talk about fruit history without discussing the banana-cide.
Yeah, so Minori's would probably be, I think she would enjoy doing outdoor stuff, but in much the same way that I couldn't see Manatsu picking somewhere that was like inside, I couldn't see Minori picking a place that was outside. So I could imagine her wanting to take them to like a big library or a museum where they can learn about all sorts of different stuff, or historical sites that also maybe tie into like either legends or stories that have been written.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool history in Europe, specifically
Absolutely.
for like tourism, so I could see them going on a trip there and like backpacking around to all the historical sites. That would be a cool trip. We should do that.
Absolutely. And for Asuka, I'm thinking, I don't know if I could justify this necessarily, but what if she went out to the quote-unquote Wild West in America, and they were just cowgirls for a week?
So, consider, these girls have pretty much grown up on an island, right?
Okay.
I think they're in Japan proper, and it's Manatsu who was on an island off the coast of Japan.
It was a smaller population, yeah.
But I like to imagine that they don't have a lot of experience with the greater world. So imagine Asuka plans a trip to, like, Utah, right?
Okay.
Or Texas. And she's really excited. She shows up dressed as an Old West cowboy, and she gets off the train and all the people are in normal clothes. And she's like, where are the horses?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I love it. Another thought that I just had is that Sango would probably absolutely love, I don't know if they'd be able to get in, but like if they were doing some kind of important ball at a castle, for, I don't know, like the king or queen or whatever of that country, like, I think she would do pretty well in a ballroom setting, more so than Manatsu. Manatsu has too much energy, and I don't think she'd be able to compose herself.
Imagine Manatsu having, like, a freak out moment over which fork to use.
Oh my gosh. So you'd have Manatsu freaking out, or maybe not freaking out, she'd be not behaving with the proper conduct of a high-class lady, but you wouldn't notice because she's kind of oblivious. Minori might actually be a pretty good conversationalist if she could come out of her shell, but she could also be overwhelmed by all of the, like, the noise and such, and how many people are there. Asuka seems embarrassed by her beauty and her femininity, so I think she would be acting a little shy. But Sango and Laura would absolutely kill it.
Absolutely. I like this discussion. I think we took it in a good place.
Okay.
High five, team. Joel, do you have a succinct summary of the episode we just watched?
Yes, it's an adventure on a train. So, Asuka is going on a train trip, and this is for 9th graders only, so only Asuka is going. Minori is in 8th grade, and Sango and Manatsu and Laura are in 7th grade. She finds out that Laura snuck a board inside the aquapot inside of Asuka's bag, and Asuka now has to try to keep this secret. And then also discovers that Dr. Numeri has come aboard and is hiding as a worker on the train.
A conductor.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a conductor specifically or if it was like a staff member or something. But Asuka eventually tricks Dr. Numeri off of the train so that they don't cause any trouble. She takes over a second train and starts chasing them down. Also, Manatsu, Sango, and Minori, or should I say, Summer, Coral, and Papaya are chasing down the train, and we assume at first that it's because they also want to sneak aboard in order to go on this overnight trip, but it turns out Laura accidentally dislocated Asuka's favorite pillow when she was sneaking into the bag, and Asuka can't sleep without it, so they are running to give Asuka the pillow before nightfall. We get a little bit of backstory about Asuka, and the central focus of this episode is Asuka and, I actually wrote her name down this time, but I need to have the window open in order to read it. Shiratori, for Whitebird. But it's focusing on Asuka and Shiratori's relationship and why Asuka is so anti-team. And that's basically been your succinct summary.
That was a great succinct summary. I just realized Asuka, flamingo, bird.
Red bird, pink bird.
Yeah. This chick, also bird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Caw.
They gonna fly away together, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't
Birds of a feather?
know.
Joel, do you like this episode?
I liked this episode a lot, absolutely. We have gotten episodes where Laura is kind of like deep and Thoughtful, yeah. And we've had other episodes where she kind of acts like a little bit like of a gremlin, and this episode has both of those. She didn't tell the other girls that she was going to sneak into the bag. She didn't consider the consequences of her action. She didn't consider the fact that she would be able to go on a trip like this in 2 years' time. She wanted to go now. So she self-invited herself, and she's like, it doesn't matter if people see me or not. It kind of matters a little bit,
How
though.
are you going to explain how you got on the train, Laura? How are you going to explain that? Also, did you notice there weren't any adults on this trip? Like, I'd assume there would be chaperones, but there weren't. It was just the classmates.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there were chaperones and they just weren't shown because they don't want to have two cute teachers. I don't know.
The chaperones weren't chaperoned.
When they lose at video games, that's when they get chaperoned. Did you like this episode?
Yes, I did. I thought this episode was really fun. We got some character stuff, which was nice. Some of the relationship strife between her...
Shiratori?
Yes.
And
Asuka started to be... So here's the thing. I wanted to call Asuka Asuna, but I knew it was wrong, and then I couldn't remember any names.
Ah, okay.
So my brain just blue screened there for a second. But yeah, no, I really liked it. I like that they are mending their broken relationship. And we finally got an explanation as to what went on between them, and they were on a tennis team, and then they weren't.
Okay, so question for you, and I'll give my answer too. Did you find the backstory compelling and sufficient enough to explain the friction between them?
No.
Okay.
What about you?
No.
So I thought that it would be a slightly more dramatic betrayal. Like, I did think there was something related to, you know, we had the big game, but then she decided that we weren't going to be a team anymore, and I wasn't able to play or something like that, right? And that is kind of what we got. Basically, Asuka got into a fight because people were trying to sabotage Shiratori, and when the adults stepped in to intervene and she was going to get in trouble for fighting, Shiratori was like, look, their team and our team, you and I, are all going to drop out of this game, and we're just not going to play. And Asuka's like, but that's not fair. Mm-hmm. I didn't do anything wrong. I was protecting you. And Shiratori was like, no, we're all dropping out. And Asuka's like, fine, I don't need you guys. And she just leaves, which I thought was kind of a dramatic response. I think that it would have been, her anger would be more justified if Shiratori had said, our school still gets to play. We're not all getting kicked out, but you have to sit out. And then it would have been a more direct, like, her whole team betrayed her, and that's why she's so anti-team.
Sure, or if they had been, like, talking to, like, the regulatory board, I don't know what the proper term would be, but if Shiratori basically was like, yeah, Asuka effed up, and she shouldn't be allowed to play. Like, if there was some kind of miscommunication like that, where Asuka thought that her story was being ignored and that the team was more important to her partner than her, I could understand that. I wonder if it would have been better if they could have teased this out over multiple episodes, and they did tease it out by showing Asuka and Shiratori not getting along, but I wonder if we could have gotten, like, a flashback of them getting along in episode, say, like, 29, and then in episode 30 we get a flashback of where things went wrong or where things started to get tense, because this kind of I'm going to call it a breakup, that's the succinct word, but this kind of falling out is most impactful when it's kind of built up to, you know, because a lot of times I'm sure that if Shiratori had apologized, that should have been able to mend it over this one mishap.
Well, and I will say, we're looking at it as adults from a storytelling perspective, right? But if you think about the feelings in the moment, if you were a middle schooler and that happened to you, like, I dropped friendships over less in middle school. Like, it absolutely would have been a friendship ender for me if I had been in that situation at that age. As an adult, now I'm like, that's a little extreme. Maybe not.
Yeah, okay, I get it. The other thing, too, that kind of irritates me about it is that Asuka, when she first showed up, definitely seemed to be kind of like I'm a lone wolf. But she got over it pretty quick for trauma that is that deep or whatever. It would be kind of more interesting, I think, if maybe... What if she were, like, too competitive, and she was starting to, like, take the game too seriously, and that's why Shiratori is like, I'm not having fun anymore, and that would tie into the themes of the show, and also, in modern day, Asuka could be, like, meek and kind of, like, trying to, like, hold herself back, and then Laura could be like, let yourself shine brightly, and then maybe from this moment on, she's much more aggressive as a PreCure in battle or something like that. I think that would be a pretty cool story route to go. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm also, I gotta say, as long as we're talking about disappointments, I'm disappointed that it wasn't the train they were on that got Yarane Dodd.
How would that work if they were on the train and got Yarane Dodd? Would it mean that, like, the doors were, like, opening and closing on their own and they're being attacked by the environment? Or would it... Okay.
Yeah, environmental attacks. Maybe the Yarane Dodd is, like, hurtling toward a cliff and they have to find a way to stop the train from within before it gets off the cliff.
Okay. I like that. I would agree that it wasn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be, but it's hard to jam-pack these episodes full of flashbacks and funny stories and kind of like a thrilling fight or whatever.
You need to get at least one transformation and at least one Buy Our Toys scene in every episode of PreCure, and that's a lot to ask for.
Absolutely. But I just gotta say, to circle back to it, it was brilliant that Asuka tricked Numeri off of the train. I did not see that coming in any way. I laughed my ass off. And if you are choosing to look at it as a relationship between Asuka and Shiratori, you know, maybe they were girlfriends and then they broke up, but they still have feelings for each other, could be the subtext. There was a couple of scenes where I literally screamed out loud because I believe that it was Flamingo, like, holding Shiratori in order to, like, get her out of danger or something like that.
She put their foreheads got really close together, and he did. Like, he's not exaggerating, listeners. He screamed when it did the zoom in on their faces close together.
It looked like they were gonna kiss.
It was such a heartfelt reaction, such a sincere reaction to what was happening that we had to bring it up on mic, because I don't think you're that affected by media most of the time.
No, most of the time, like, if you've read Game of Thrones or you've seen the TV show and you know what the Red Wedding is, I read that chapter and I basically reacted out loud with, like, oh, that happened. And that was partially because I knew that you were waiting to see my reaction and that changed things. But yeah, for the most part, my reactions are more internal, but every once in a while something happens that makes me actually laugh out loud really hard or scream in excitement, and so yeah, it was a good episode.
Did you have any other favorite scenes or quotes you wanted to discuss?
Laura and Asuka talking, where Laura's like, tell me about what happened, And Asuka goes, I don't really, it's kind of personal. And Laura goes, what happens on the trip stays on the trip. And Asuka's like, that's not what that means. And Laura goes, oh, but I got it right. Like, yeah, that was a great reaction, displaying both of them in their element.
Absolutely. Well, and I love the growth from Laura, like showing genuine interest in another person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is definitely something she learned from Minori. So,
okay, yeah.
I appreciate it. Honestly, I'm surprised Minori wasn't the one triggering this conversation with Asuka. But of course, Minori could not have been in the aquapot to sneak in the bag to get on the train.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think Minori is good at considering other people's feelings, but from the most part, I wouldn't say that she has initiated many of those kinds of conversations, and so I don't know what story beat could compel her to speak about it. It's kind of like last episode, she was like, oh yeah, I knew Asuka used to be in the tennis club and she dropped, but I didn't bring it up because it didn't seem important. And so, if she were sitting next to Asuka, I could imagine her not saying anything, and Asuka wouldn't bring it up on her own. So.
Yeah, they're both a little reticent.
Yes, exactly.
So before we go into that's what it's called, Futari Wa and Kira Kira, can I just say we finally got to the episode of Fresh?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're watching Fresh PreCure. For the most part, we don't talk about it on mic because it's good to have things that we enjoy for the sake of the things, not for the podcast. But we got to the episode where Ys, the villain, dies. Her corporate overlords decide that her lifespan has expired. And she literally does. She falls over dead. This also happens to be the episode where the fourth cure is introduced. And I was expecting a much more dramatic transformation scene than what we got. What about you?
I would agree that certain elements of that were a little strange. The two remaining villains that we've been interacting with this entire time, Westar and Solar, they basically just kind of like go, oh, there's a fourth cure. Like, the only thing that can stop your plan are the PreCure, and you've been having a hard time with just 3 of them lately, and now you're just kind of like, we lost one of our evil generals, they pulled the plug on her, and now it's going to be harder to fight these people, but, okay, we're just going to go sit down, have some tea, reconsider our battle plan.
Absolutely. I will say the fourth cure for Fresh still has, like, probably what is my favorite cure design in all of PreCure.
Absolutely. I love how she looks.
Yeah, she's got little wings on her headband. She's so cute. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there about Fresh because I was really excited for this episode, and a lot of it was really good. Like I said, there was an actual death, which was really dramatic. That doesn't happen a lot in PreCure, but also I thought the transformation was weird, so...
Yeah, absolutely. We actually got some conflict between Love and Barry. Because Miki, that's right. Because Peach doesn't know what she wants to do. I'm just going to use their cure names. But she doesn't know what to do, and as we've learned in previous episodes, Barry is kind of the hard-ass parent in a certain sense. And so, the tough love parent, that's the better word for it. And so she tries to be like, could you please get over your feelings? And it doesn't quite work. But it's rare that you see actual conflict between PreCure characters that feels weighty. So
yeah.
I appreciated that as well.
Absolutely. Also, the animation for the big fight in that episode was incredible.
Yes, it absolutely was.
So we did watch an episode of Futari Wa this week.
Can I make a request?
You may.
Can we just not talk about this in depth? Okay. So, if you're watching Futari Wa, and you watched episode 30 introduced the 3 evil seeds, finally, like, all working together as a unit. They try to attack Poland. Poland goes Super Saiyan, releases a rainbow beam that gives Nagisa and Honoka power up and allows them to defeat the bad guys. This episode starts with them going, what was that mysterious light that gave us new powers? And they look at Poland and they go, could Poland be getting stronger? Yet the answer is yes. You saw him give you superpowers last episode. What are you talking about? And so this episode is that Poland decides that he wants to try to go back to the field of light. to be back with all of his friends that he missed, and then as he's running away, he gets attacked, and then they have to defend him, and he does the thing again. Apparently, every episode we're going to get him screaming, turning golden, and shooting a rainbow blast. I thought that was only to create the little Tamagotchi things that they have on their wrists, but nope, we're going to get that animation every episode.
I do like the thing he yells. It's like, accept the light.
It feels like a religious thing, or like, let the demon in. Let the demon of friendship take hold of your soul.
Yeah. I don't want to be overly negative, right? And I really do love PreCure overall. I'm tired of Futari Wa. I'm not interested in these characters. I don't like their outfits. Like, there's nothing drawing me to this show, and I am excited to move on to something else when it's done.
Yeah, these three evil seeds are less visually interesting than the band of characters that we got before. Because before we had, like, long-haired kind of vixen, seductress type of lady, and you had, like, evil Piccolo, and you had child.
They had personalities.
Yeah, and these three are just basically, like, you have one who's slightly more sinister and, like, I've thought 10,000 steps ahead, but then the other two are basically just girl and guy. So.
Yep. So Kira it is. You watched the movie.
Absolutely. And for this next episode of Cure of the What Now, I would like to watch 2 episodes. I don't remember what episode I last watched. I think I was on 38, so next will be 39 and 40. And if I got those numbers wrong, the episode description will definitely have the correct episode.
I am excited to watch episode 39 with you.
Yes. So, they are going to Paris, as I think I covered was the introduction to the movie in episode 37, I think. And they show up, and it turns out that CL has had 2 different masters. Teachers.
Senseis.
Yeah. Before she had MILF Mom that we met in the Halloween episode, she had DILF Dad, who is a French guy named Jean Pierre. He is apparently empty-headed, except I never got that from his character. They just told me that he was silly, and I was like, okay, I guess he is eccentric. What?
Say it with me, Joel. Trevian!
But spoiler alert for the end of the movie, but it turns out that this guy is not getting respect for the sweets that he makes. But the sweets that he makes are powerful enough with their cure-all and their smell to attract 2 fairies whose entire goal is to like sweets. So I don't understand. There's this disconnect where the narrative is trying to tell us this guy is the best sweets maker ever, but nobody ever eats his sweets. And it's like, why not though?
I think it's like, have you ever seen really fine, high art and looked at it and been like, I don't like that? But somebody who's like an art connoisseur might tell you like, well, you have no taste. This is actually really impressive art.
Okay.
Or like, we've gone to really, really expensive restaurants and you've been like, this food was just okay. And I was like, the food was incredible. It was just not what you're used to eating. I think it's supposed to kind of be like that. Like, he's so advanced that the average person can't appreciate it.
Okay. I will say really quick, overall, very positive about this movie, but I will say that is one negative, is that they didn't do enough work to show that discontent and how that led him to the dark side. Spoilers.
The dark side of sweets.
They go to PreCure. They meet Jean Pierre. This whole show, PreCure, all mode, longest series title ever, is about expressing your feelings. Aoi wants to express her true feelings, and she feels stifled in her proper attire. Yukari feels like there's nothing that she does like. Ichika is brimming with likeness, and she wants to try to communicate that with her mom. So this movie is CL's movie, where she is trying to express how thankful she is for Jean Pierre's tutelage, even though he admits that he didn't really teach her a whole lot. She just happened to be around. But she saw what he was doing, and she kind of learned from him that way. But he keeps refusing the sweets, and it turns out he's trying to make the ultimate sweet, TM, from a ghost named Cook, who is definitely not evil and trying to possess his soul. Except she is. And she creates the ultimate sweet, and they have to defeat it. Not only do they have to fight Cook's evil magic, which messes with their transformations and prevents CL from turning into her human form. When she transforms, she's stuck in fairy mode. but she also, like, mind controls Jean Pierre, and they have to disconnect him from the Matrix. And the way that they do that is by having him eat a delicious sweet baked with all of Ciel's feelings for him. And that's it. I don't think that I skipped over any major plot points.
No, that's about it. I really love this movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like I said last week, I think this is one of my favorite PreCure movies that we've seen. I'll call it my favorite. It was my favorite PreCure movie we've seen. So I have to ask you, did it stand up? You've seen the Twinkle movie, which I have not.
Yes, so I was trying to think back to all the different PreCure movies. I have a terrible memory sometimes, like, when we talk about openings, if we are now on opening 2, I cannot remember what opening 1 was at all, and that sort of thing. So I can't remember all of the PreCure movies, but if I remember correctly, I like the solo movies. I like the Heartcatch movie, I like the Star Twinkle movie, and I like the Kira Kira movie, because they tend to focus on the characters and give them interesting interactions. And while the latest PreCure All-Stars and crossover movies have kind of dwindled the cast down to a more manageable number of people, I don't remember liking any of the crossovers because there's too many characters on screen, and sometimes the side characters they introduce in those movies aren't nearly as interesting as the side characters from... So Jean Pierre is way better than Squawk Walk, for example. But yeah, no, I like this movie a lot. I don't know if I would say that it's my favorite. I wouldn't say that it's substantially worse than the other ones. They're all on about the same level of quality for me.
Okay. Can we talk about the short?
The short. Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I'll give a succinct summary for this. Pecorin is baking cookies with Mofaroon from Witchy PreCure and Pafu and Aroma from Go Princess PreCure. They run out of flour and they send Pafu to the basement to get more, but that's not flour, Pafu, that's dragon powder. So it's a giant dough dragon, and they use the miracle lights to reflect the dragon's flames back at it, and that bakes it into cookies, and that's the end.
Gee, Catherine, what are miracle lights?
Miracle lights are a special toy you can get if you go to the theater to see one of these movies, and you can wave it on to cheer on the PreCure.
The miracle light is a special tool that will help you out later at the climax of the movie, and it is a way of conveying feelings to the PreCure girls, and it allows them to get power-ups or a friendship Kamehameha wave or something like that.
I said this in our long episode about Kira Kira and Star Twinkle, but gosh, I think I would have been so jazzed to be a child at one of these movies, like waving my miracle light. Like, I do it every time, even now as an adult. Like, I'll just sit there and wave my hand in the air because I'm very suggestible, apparently. But I really think I would have enjoyed that piece of audience participation if I were the target audience.
Well, and it makes sense in universe because these miracle lights show up and, like, the civilians get them, for example. And so you as a civilian get to wave your miracle light, and it almost feels like you are participating and you're part of that world. So I think it's a pretty neat gimmick. I myself am a little bit less into it, I guess, but it's cute. If there are children out there who love it, good for them, and I'm glad that enhances their experience.
Yes, and I just want to say, Pafu looked adorable in 3D animation.
Yes, Pafu is a top-tier fairy for me, personally. Someday we will come up with an official list, as I've been saying for many weeks now, but first we have to meet all of the different mascots.
Yeah. So. Speaking of mascots, Mofaroon and his team, her team. I always forget Mofaroon's a girl, but Mofaroon and team were in this movie.
Yes, the Witchy Girls were in France. If you have not seen Maho Tsukai PreCure, they basically have a Gandalf-like figure who can tell them where bad things are going to happen. And so they came to France knowing that something bad was going to happen. Something bad happens, and at the climax of the movie, or when we're entering the land of the final battle, they show up and protect the city from a bunch of low-tier monsters, while the Kira Kira girls are able to focus their attention on Cook and her giant sweets mecha, I guess is what it is.
There's one more thing we have to talk about.
Costume changes.
Panda Yukari.
So I mentioned briefly that Cook has magical powers or curse-like powers. At the beginning of the movie, she's able to take away Ciel's ability to do sweets good. And also when she transforms into Cure Parfait, she gets reverted back to Curarine. And later in the movie, when she transforms again, she's just Curarine in the Parfait outfit. But then, when they try to confront Cook, she decides that, or she realizes that the true essence of their power is that their costumes give them abilities like their animals, and their animals reflect their personalities. So she plays a little bit of a trick on them, and she changes what animals they represent. So Ichiga, who is usually a fast and high-jumping bunny, gets transformed into a turtle. Slow, and obviously not very many jumps on the turtles. Akira, who is a dog, gets transformed into a crawdad, which apparently can only retreat. Did not know that about crawdads, but that's the trait it gives her in this movie, Akira. Yukari gets transformed into a panda, which is not elegant, like a cat, but is just as cute, I would argue. Aoi, who's usually kind of brash and bold and full of energy, she gets transformed into a sloth, which is slow-moving and lethargic. And Himurine, who's usually a squirrel that gives her, squirrely abilities, she gets transformed into a penguin, which, gives her penguin-y abilities. Those two are opposites, as you can clearly tell.
Yeah, penguins are nimble, or not penguins. Squirrels are nimble,
That's
and
true.
Penguins are kind of like...
That's true. Squirrels are mammals, and penguins are birds, so... They lay eggs, so they wouldn't be mammals.
And they have feathers and wings.
I forget that they have feathers because they're the weird exception. They're not like other birds. I'm not like other birds. But eventually they do realize that the animals that they are do have certain advantages. Kind of. So Ichika figures out that her turtle shell gives her strong defense. Himurine realizes that penguins actually are nimble if they go underwater. And Aoi does the drop bear maneuver, as it's known in Australia, where she falls on top of a flying enemy, and from up there she can easily hit everyone with her Kira Kirel. Yukari doesn't do anything. She seems to just kind of accept that she's a panda and she's there to, support all of the other girls. And she goes, "Good job, girls." And Akira doesn't really use the crawfish's abilities to her advantage. She simply turns around so that when she backs up into them and smacks the bad guy with her crawdad tail ass.
You can't curse in our PreCure show.
She uses her butt slap ability, taking a page out of Cure Blossom's playbook. How's that?
Much better, much better. I forgot Blossom had a butt punch.
Yeah.
Heart catch was so good.
Heart catch was amazing.
Go princess, heart catch, Kira.
For sure. Which was your favorite? I mean, I guess you alluded to this. You said we had to talk about Panda Yukari. Why is Panda Yukari deserving of our love?
Because she's just vibing the whole battle. She's just happy. She's just having a good time. It's that, no, I don't want to be bred. Being bred is fine, actually, meme. But about being a panda, everybody else is freaking out because they've changed. And Yukari's sitting there with, a big donut toy, like an inflated donut. And she goes, "I don't hate this."
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, if you've ever seen any of the solo PreCure movies, they might do this in some of the crossovers too, but they get a power-up form where they get, angel wings, which is pretty cool, and then they defeat the bad guy. But that covers just about it. Is there anything else from this movie that really spoke to you?
I liked that they knocked over the Eiffel Tower. And then in the credits, there's a scene of them pulling it back up. That
is pretty incredible. Here's the thing about soft magic. Couldn't the Maho Tsukai girls just have done cure up, rapa-pa-pa, fix the Eiffel Tower?
They had to go back to the magic world.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, the golden hour was almost passing and they hadn't had time to tell people their names yet. Yeah, absolutely, that too. I do gotta say, when you described this scene to me, or this movie to me, all those months ago, and when you showed the screenshot, I didn't realize that Ha was there. I thought it was just Mirai and Liko, but nope, it's all four of them. Mofu is there in order to smell delicious cookies. That's Mofurune's one ability.
I smell a sweet scent, Mofu.
All right.
I think that's about everything I had on Kira Kira and Futari Wa. Are we about ready for thoughts from the crew?
Yeah, absolutely. No prizes for guessing who submitted their thoughts on both the Tropical Rouge episode and
Steve Jobs came back from the dead to submit thoughts on our podcast?
Is that the same one you guessed last time?
No, last time I guessed Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Who is alive.
My fellow Americans, the Heartcatch girls are good. All right. So, James was saying for the Kira Kira movie that it was well animated, lots of good funny bits. He was happy that the Witchy girls came back. Now, I assume that Witchy and Go Princess were the two that were right before Kira Kira, so that explains why they're there. But also the fact that they happen to be some of my favorites, I'm not complaining. I guess technically the Go Princess girls didn't show up, but the Go Princess mascots were in the short.
Yeah. So we were watching this together, and I saw Pafu in the short, and I went, oh my gosh, were the Go Princess girls in the actual movie? And I just forgot somehow. And then I was real sad when they weren't there.
Oh,
I miss you, Cure Flora.
I think that Kirara would just be too powerful and she would single-handedly destroy Cook, like in a single moment.
She also would single-handedly destroy Yukari's confidence.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, his other thought was that Ichika can now join the TMNT because she's a PreCure and a half shell. A thought that I never would have occurred to me.
Which Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle does Ichika most closely align with?
Not Raphael.
I think she's got to be orange.
Michelangelo, yeah. Yeah, because she's not geeky enough to be, I never remember which one's Donatello and which one's Leonardo. One of them is the leader, and one of them is the tech guy.
Leonardo is blue, and he's the leader.
Right.
And he's, like, serious nerd, but nerd about being a leader. And the other one is purple, and
Donatello.
He's tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she definitely would fit with Michelangelo the best. And now I just want to see the PreCure girls make a pizza. I know it's not a sweet... They can make a dessert pizza. That would be lots of fun.
S'mores pizza.
Yeah, see?
Tasty.
And also, James was not a fan of Cook because she was mean. Also, at the very end of the movie, Jean Pierre meets a little girl who looks exactly like Cook when she was alive, or like what her ghost looks like, and he kind of takes her in. And I appreciate that for the symbolism of, she went evil because people didn't like her or whatever. They didn't appreciate her sweets. And so now she kind of gets a second chance. But I am confused because I was under the impression that Cook died like 100 years ago, so it seems weird that she'd get a body back, or it seems weird that she would have a descendant that looks exactly like her, that's the same age as her when she died, who happens to find Jean Pierre after all this is over.
Yeah, it was a little convenient, but I think it's just supposed to be a coincidence.
Okay, it's just cute.
Maybe there's a manga in which Yukari and Akira kiss, but also that's explained.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You remember that time we found out that in the Heartcatch manga, it was explained that the thing on the bad guy's shoulder
was the devil?
Literally was the devil?
Yeah.
PreCure manga goes much harder than the anime.
I wonder if there's fewer restrictions, because I know that Japan, and I mean even in America to a different extent, but they can be pretty like, you can't show that to kids. It's why Yu-Gi-Oh! Had finger pointing instead of guns.
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh man, this is not a Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. James's Tropica thoughts was that he loved the intro. We didn't shout out the intro specifically. Asuka's on the train, and they're just a bunch of girls just talking about, like, whatever, and then you see the zipper of her bag slowly open, and you go, what? And then a hand pops out, and it's Laura, and she goes, ah! And she has to grab the bag, and she runs out, and Shiratori, sees her running by, and is like, what was that? And Asuka's like, why'd you steal me on the train?
Honestly, Laura would make a great horror movie monster.
At one point, I was ready to call bullshit. I was like, there's no way Laura could fit inside that bag. Were you going to tell me that mermaids don't have bones or something? And then I saw that there was the aquapod in there. I was like, oh, no, that makes much more sense.
Of course mermaids don't have bones, Joel. Have you ever eaten a fish bone?
Yes.
You lie. Can I share a story with our fine listeners really quick?
Sure.
So, I hold my father in very high esteem, and when I was a young child, he convinced me that salmon was not a fish. that it lived in the water like fish, but it wasn't a fish. Like dolphins, right? Dolphins are mammals. I knew that. Everyone knows that. Every good child knows dolphins are not fish. So he convinces me of this. And I went to school, and my teacher starts talking about salmon and calls them a fish. And I got into a fight with this woman.
You were very particular as a child.
A loud and aggressive fight. About in front of the whole class about, no, you're wrong. My dad told me, and my dad is smarter than you. Which, honestly, I'm pretty sure I used those exact words. And eventually the teacher just called my dad, and she was like, please tell your daughter to stop bullying me in front of my whole classroom. And my dad was like, salmon's a fish. I was messing with you. And I was like, no, Dad, it's fine. You don't have to lie for her. And then I got into another fight with a different adult, where I know for sure in that conversation I said, my dad's smarter than you. So this is why you shouldn't lie to your kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, mermaids don't have bones.
James also called out the faking out Dr. Numeri. Just excellent subversion of the trope of what you expect to happen.
I was not expecting Asuka to be that kind of troublemaker.
Well, it's like she's causing trouble for the sake of not causing trouble, you know?
Yeah.
And we finally got the Asuka Yurika backstory.
What I'm getting from this Tropic of Thought from James is that he also screamed when he thought the girls were going to kiss.
Different people can both enjoy something while one of them screams out loud and one of them is a normal person.
One of them screams in their heart. That's what I do at the office all day long.
I will say, I know James is being flippant, but I just can't. I don't think that Asuka and Yurika are now going to be girlfriends because they didn't actually really resolve anything in this episode. At the end, it's kind of hinted at that they still have fond feelings for each other because Asuka has a pillow and Yurika's like, oh, you never could sleep without that pillow, which implies that she's been around Asuka while she slept before, so...
Normal people have sleepovers with their friends.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think the show could not be any clearer with their intentions with these two characters unless they had a your lover will leave you style flash.
You got addicted, or Yukari and Akira hooked you on subtext and now you're addicted to it. But yeah, James did say, now they can be girlfriends, right? Which was pretty much our reaction too. Like, you're over your bullshit, now hold hands.
One thing that I thought was interesting, at one point, Yurika, wakes up and she looks out the window and she sees Flamingo fighting the train Urinada. And she sees Flamingo use Flamingo shoot or shot, I can't remember. And it looks exactly like the way Asuka plays tennis. And she even explicitly overlays the two. I wonder if she's going to find out, which, I mean, I don't wonder if she's going to find out. I think that they're telegraphing pretty clearly that she will find out by the end of the series. They've done that in previous PreCures as well. I almost kind of wonder if maybe there's time for her to become a PreCure herself. I doubt it, but I would love it if there was a second secret PreCure and they subverted our expectations by having us focus on Laura.
There's probably going to be a scene where, they need to evacuate the city, and Yuriko is like, we can trust in the PreCure, and she helps in that way.
It's Yurika. A lot of Japanese names end with ko, but she's ka.
The girl. I don't care what her name is.
Show some respect. She's the student council president. She keeps things running smoothly here.
I don't accept her authority.
I didn't vote for her. I'm not from Japan.
I voted for Laura.
Oh my goodness gracious. So now we move on to predictions looking ahead. Without looking at the episode title, is there anything that strikes you about what might come next?
Unfortunately, it's too late. I already looked at it.
Well, no, I know.
But if I were to put that foreknowledge aside, not really.
Yeah. I
would assume another character episode. But I think I would assume maybe Minori, because, Asuka's graduating, but she's a year younger than Asuka, so her, stepping up into the role of, a senior student.
Oh, okay. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah, what I meant was, did the episode itself give you anything that made you go, oh, that's probably what the next one's going to be about? And the answer is no, because a lot of Tropical Rouge episodes are standalone.
Minatsu gets grounded because she got back to the city after dark, after disappearing for a full day and not explaining where she went.
Gosh, how did they explain that to their parents? Huh.
They all said, I'm going to sleep over at X's house to their own parents. And
course.
Their parents are modern parents, so they didn't follow up.
Absolutely. So episode 32 that we'll be covering next week is titled Run for the Runway, Songo's Fashion Show. And Twitter was losing its mind when it was confirmed that we finally got a Songo standalone episode. And I'm not calling them out. I'm not saying, like, those fools got excited over nothing. I'm excited too. But I heard this news before I even looked at the episode title because everyone was like, oh my gosh, Songo's getting an actual episode.
Very exciting. I like run for the runway, implying that she has to chase it.
Okay.
So maybe her store is participating in some way, like they're doing makeup for the models or something like that. And there's a Yarnada battle, and Songo might not make it to the show in time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, when the second subtitle, I'm not sure, but Songo's fashion show makes me think that she's hosting it, but at the same time, Run for the Runway makes me think that she's participating in it. And that's not typical. The person who hosts something like this usually isn't the one who also participates. But I think that you could have an interesting... Because you need some kind of a conflict. And so what you're saying is maybe she won't be able to make it to the show would be interesting. Maybe it could be like that episode of My Little Pony where Rarity's designing dresses for everyone. Songo's doing makeup for the other tropical girls, but they're all, like, asking her to make alterations without realizing that, no, she knows what she's doing.
I have to ask now, which one asks her to make their makeup 20% cooler?
Oh. Minori is definitely the least likely to say it, but I could see a compelling argument for Manatsu and Asuka and Laura, but I would say... probably Manatsu.
Asuka is the most Rainbow Dash, but I feel like Manatsu or Laura are the most likely to say something like that.
Well, yeah, because I can't see Asuka demanding that her outfit be cooler. You know, that's kind of why I figured that it would either be Manatsu and Laura, and maybe Laura is tactful enough that she wouldn't say it. Hard to tell with her. She varies from day to day.
I've got bad news, babe.
Oh no, what is it?
The only thing in my brain now is Art of the Dress.
Okay, well, I think that has been your
Doot, final thought. Outro goes here.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and won't you try some of my sweets? They're experimental. Side effects include growing a third arm, sometimes tasting colors, and developing X-ray vision.
For Pinkie Pie something pink!
Ha-ha! What a great episode of King of the What Now, your one-piece podcast that started from the very beginning and stars these two doofuses. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter is the best place to do that. I am at KOTWN_pod.
And I am at Pirate Ghost Host.
Absolutely, yes. We share all sorts of thoughts on there, some related to the podcast, some related to other things. But you can also reach us through email at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Patreon. We would love some subscribers or supporters, whatever the technical term is. Patrons. So fancy and grown up. And you can find that at patreon.com/kingofthewhatpod. You can find all sorts of things like bonus episodes, and you get to see the full cold open candidates, not just the ones that make it into the episode. Maybe someday if I learn to draw, I'll put stuff up there. We're always looking for suggestions and feedback. And speaking of which,
please take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you get us from. So iTunes, Spotify, Scrivener, that's for writing. But wherever you listen to our podcast, take a moment to leave a review. It helps other people find us. We are so grateful to all of our listeners, and we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is super powerful, so if you have a friend who likes One Piece and they haven't heard of us, just direct them to the latest episode. And if they hate us, they can tell us why. And if there's an actionable item, we'll try to please you. That's how this works. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.